I'm numbering them for simplicity, but like I said, you're depending on how you want to pitch it and your look and feel and personality, you may make these slides go up and down depending on the flow that you want to achieve based on the story you're trying to tell throughout your whole presentation. So number 10, and I'll erase it because I'm running out of space, is the use of proceeds. Okay, use of proceeds slide. First of all, I want to know how you're going to use the money. Okay, so you're gonna have to tell me. Make it simple for me. Don't try to give me this spreadsheet that has a lot of mumbo jumbo that I can't really understand, or even if I do, I can't understand it. I've got to get, my binoculars, look down at all the numbers, and that's gonna be very frustrating for me. And you don't make it hard for the investor to look at your data, please. That's why I say standardize the template, standardize the fonts, standardize the colors, look and feel and all that, and be consistent. Be very consistent from going from one slide to another, even in how the bullet points are. So however way your bullet points are, even the margins, going from one slide to another, this is how detailed I get, have to be consistent, okay? So now I'm going to give you, so the number 10 slide is use of proceeds, and number 11 slide is business model. And this is the one that I'll tell you some stories on when we go into the detail aspect of it. The business model is something that you want to put, of course, you want to explain to the investor how you're going to make money, but by the same token, you have to be very careful about what you put on the business model, because how I see the business model is not any different like a very precious software code or program, the secret juice that's making your application run sweetly, that you probably don't even want to patent because you don't want anybody to see it. So my point is that business modeling is important, and you want to, of course, explain to the investor how the business model works, but with the same tokens, like I said, some of the nuances you want to stay away until you kind of get comfortable with the presentation and who you're pitching for money, okay? The number 12 component is the prototype. Whatever that is, whether it's an analog product or a digital product, you want to show prototypes. So at the end, now after you've set the tone of telling the story, your vision, all the people involved, the product, the differentiation, the partners, all that stuff, the financial models, even the business model. Now you're going to show the prototype, or whatever that is, technology or analog device. If you design the greatest smartphone on the planet, and now you told the investors that it's going to be better and cooler than Samsung, Google, or iPhone, you got to kind of show it, in my opinion. See how it works, and of course, one of the things is that if you show me a prototype, and believe me, I've been in the situations where everything's flowing smoothly with the entrepreneur pitching me for money, and then we get to the prototype, for example, and it doesn't work. And then all the excuse says, well, this or that, and seriously. One of the other things you have to consider is the 3 different types of templates, okay? First of all, the cover, okay, template. Okay, and then the other thing is after those 13 slides, what I usually there are 14 or 15 slides because you probably have possibly 2 slides on the market overview, and maybe even 2 slides on product overview because you have a really cool product, you want to show some pictures and all that. And also make sure that when you're doing your graphics and pictures within the presentation, make sure they're tight, they're crisp, they're clear, they're clean. No type. If you're showing a diagram of your process, please don't have any typos within a diagram. Make sure that you have plenty of people on your team look over the presentation. Nothing irritated me more than you come and pitch me for money and you have a bunch of typos or grammatical errors in your presentation. And now you want money from me. Okay, now this presentation, the startup pitch, I will tell you this. You could throw all that away. If you already have a product you developed, let's say you developed a digital product and you're out in the marketplace and the digital product or service, whatever, platform looks unbelievable, and it's making money or it's gaining traction and you're just going through the roof. You pretty much, I hate to say it, depending on what region of the country you're at, you pretty much don't need much to get the money. especially if the founders have a track record behind them of being successful in other startups. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm one of those guys that maybe because I was an athlete, also maybe because I love military theory, even though I never went to military, I still believe that whether you're successful before or not, you should still go through the exercise of standardizing the procedures and still making things tight, because in a way you're setting a tone for your culture also, your startup culture. So you have a cover template, and then of course you have an appendix. And like I said, once you're done with those 13, 14 slides, then in your appendix, you're going to have certain things in it that might support your like customer testimonials, strategic partner testimonials, some process or something in the marketplace that validates why your startup is going to be $1 billion company almost overnight. And then of course the back cover, okay? But please, I'm begging you, do not put big thank you to me on the back cover. Please. I can't tell you why that irritates me, but it does. It's like you've done everything flawless, everything looks beautiful, and then it's some stupid big letters thank you, 40 point or 72 point font, and when in reality what I really want you to do is reflect the back cover to the front cover. Make it consistent, just like in films. You know, if you look at Hollywood, when a film opens in a certain way, study this, the ending usually ties up all the knots and that happen throughout the film, so there's a closure on every point. So you have the beginning reflect the ending, and ending reflect the beginning. So make it tight, and I'll explain to you really quickly how I do it, but also make sure that you differentiate between the appendix too. So after all those slides, you have an appendix slide, and then as an investor, if I'm interested in looking at those, great. If not, then you're not wasting my time, because in reality, you have to look at this startup pitch to the investors as a presentation of 20 to 30 minutes. Okay, now if the investor has a lot of other questions and they want to go full hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, because I used to do that at times, then so be it. Then you really have accomplished developing a presentation that has gotten you to the point of the next steps. And the next steps are coming back for another presentation with more of the partners, or coming back with more detailed information, going through the due diligence. But there's sometimes people will say, I'm in, how much do you need? And I will tell you this, I can tell you from my personal experience, I raised money from one investor, as an example, in one startup where I had a very tight presentation, the kind of presentation that I'm talking about here, and within 25 minutes the guy said, how much do you need for this first phase? I said, I need $500,000, and he asked me a couple more questions, and so this is like within 30 minutes, first 20 minutes were presentation. He asked me some questions, how much do you need, because I didn't have that on there. On purpose for that particular presentation, but I told him $500,000, I'm in, boom, and it happened. And I've actually raised a lot of money just on a napkin style of presentation, and I've also raised money just on one pager. Maybe that's another set of series, is how to raise money with just one page presentation. Much different, much more sophisticated, but that's another story. So on the cover templates, what I do, just so you know, usually my cover templates are very simple, okay? And there is some kind of a consistency there. Usually I have line here, I have the logo, okay? And the logo is much larger, okay? And then of course I'll have the company name, and then I'll have and then I'll deviate sometimes. This may be one color, and of course this will be probably white. And then I'll do this. I'll still have that line that's consistent with all the other templates, but then, and this is just personal preference, then what I'll do is I may continue and I'll put a 0 on it. Some people don't do it, but it's just my, I guess, design quirkiness where I do it. And then of course I have some major tagline or positioning of what the startup is. Startup X is revolutionizing market Y for whatever, but keep it tight. And usually it's like the tagline changes, but it's maybe sometimes it's also like a positioning of the company. So the moment I see the first cover, I see that what the company's trying to do. And of course, one of the other things I want to talk about is there's a lot of fashion startup, what I call startup fashion when it comes to naming today, where high-tech startups try to have these quirky, weird names, and then you don't know what they're really doing, and that's great, makes you cool. But I'm a big believer in traditional marketing methods, is where your name should most likely stand for what you're trying to do. And I could go all day long on different naming theories, and just a naming topic, I should actually do a topic on how to name your startup. I'm actually pretty good at it. So what I do is I make it tight, it's really clean, and then of course, you know, the logo here, and I'll send you this too, okay? And then of course, entrepreneurdex is you know, a venture accelerator that's funding and launching startups by using the principles from complexity science. So I use the tagline, something like that. And then what I do is for the back cover, because of my design quirkiness, I just put a B for back cover. And then what I'll do is, because it's so stupid, I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs forget to put their contact information on the presentation and their email. My God, you're asking me to invest $1 million or $2 million or $5 million, and you don't have your phone number, your email, your Skype, your Twitter, please, your Facebook page. Just give me all the contact points that, if I really am interested and we want to proceed to the next stage, make it easy for me. So what I usually do on the back cover is I actually raise it, okay? And then what I do is, actually, depending on, you know, the startup, but I've actually even raised it a little higher. And then I raise the line here, and my logo now is smaller. This is still the same standardized, so the person at the end, the investor sees, wow, this founding team or the startup or the entrepreneur is extremely disciplined. And then of course there's my name, contact information, and maybe if you have a founding team where another founder is financially astute and he's helping raise the money. In fact, my theory is that all the founders, if there's three of you should be raising money, helping each other, because money raising process is a journey, and obviously you see it from some of the videos I've done on how to raise the secrets to raising money. So, and then you put it here. So you want to make it easy for the investor to contact any one of you, or if on your team one person serves as a primary function of doing it. So, and then on my appendix, it's really simple actually. The appendix is modified. It just says big appendix, nice font, okay, everything else. And then here, you know, I have like A, and then when I have different pages of appendix, I just put A1 right there, A2, A3, A4, whatever, okay? So now that you see the design of it, it's very important, like I said, to summarize the logo, make it tight. Don't give me some Mickey Mouse logo. I love Mickey Mouse, sorry Mickey. Make it tight, okay? Make it professional. The logo should, if you're pitching consumers, the logo, in my opinion, should have a consumer look and feel to it. If you're pitching business to business type of scenarios, the logo should have more of a corporate look. And color, whether in the logo or presentation, you have to design it where it's visually appealing. And on this note, this is the general summary of how you should standardize your presentation, your startup pitch. And now we're going to go into full detail, slide by slide, on all of them, and what some of the elements you could have in each slide, and we'll do it in a way where you have to look at each slide as a slide that explains everything. So by doing it that way, by making each slide look independent of the other slides but still have a continuous look and feel and flow, then you can change the sequence of those slides, and they're self-sustaining slides, and then you can extract, you know, a product plus market overview and maybe competitive overview with management, slap it on the front cover, take out the appendix, put the back cover, and there's your mini version of your incredible startup sales pitch presentation to any type of investor. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna take a little break, maybe get a little coffee from Starbucks, and we'll continue, okay? Thanks.